Hello and good afternoon. Thank you all for being here this afternoon on Tuesday. I just received a 2:45 p.m. update from both the Mississippi Emergency Management Agency as well as our friends and partners with FEMA. We appreciate their support as always. Currently, Hurricane Sally is between 100 and 120 miles south of Mobile, Alabama. It is currently moving at approximately 2 miles an hour. When we talked less than 48 hours ago, it was moving between 12 and 13 miles an hour, so it has slowed considerably. But as I have said numerous times over the last several days, Sally has been very difficult to predict. And Sally has been bumping around out in the Gulf. And if you look at the current expected cone of Sally, it is worth noting that even today, less than 24 hours out from landfall, and in fact close to 18 hours out from landfall, the potential scope and size of where Sally may hit landfall really still remains from somewhere between Biloxi all the way over to the Destin area in the Florida Panhandle. And so there is still a lot of uncertainty with this particular storm, but we do expect at this time that it will hit landfall somewhere around to east of the Mississippi-Alabama line, perhaps even in the Mobile Bay area. The not good news is that with it coming at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, the good news with that is it is during light. The not good news is that is near high tide. And so as we have said, the potential water event here is significant. And it is something that we are going to have to deal with. We've already started seeing winds blowing on our Gulf Coast. Our emergency management director, who, as you can see, is not here with us right now, is actually in Jackson County. He has met with the emergency management directors in Hancock, Harrison, and Jackson counties over the last 24 hours. We appreciate Greg doing that. He has maintained contact and being in control, and we certainly appreciate that. This storm not only has it been difficult to predict, the eye of the storm has had a hard time forming, it appears. It has been bumping around out in the Gulf, and because of that, the predictability on this one has been very, very low. We do have a number of shelters open throughout our state, including the medical shelter that we mentioned yesterday. We have 6 people at most recent count in that medical needs shelter in Stone County. We have approximately 120 people in shelters throughout the state. We do continue to believe, regardless of where the eye of the storm hits landfall, that particularly in Jackson County we will see over 15 inches of rain for portions of Jackson County, and as much as 10 inches of rain throughout Jackson and George counties. In addition to that, we have flash flooding potential in a number of areas, including Harrison, Jackson, George, Greene, and Wayne counties, and it's particularly high in the southeast portions of Jackson County. We've got to continue to monitor this storm, and we will continue to monitor it. If you live in low-lying areas along the Gulf Coast, you've probably already started seeing significant increases in water. And if you live in low-lying areas, particularly in Jackson County, the time to get out is now. We have already pre-positioned 120,000 sandbags, 2,500 blue tarps, as well as the assets from our Mississippi National Guard that we've talked about over the last several days. And so we are prepared. We are going to continue to monitor this storm. We're going to continue to prepare for the worst case scenario, pray for the best case scenario, and expect somewhere in between. But just as we had projected some 40 hours ago, expecting this Sally to hit in the Port Sulphur, Louisiana area. It has ticked east repeatedly over the last 2 days, but it still is very unpredictable, and that's the reason the cone is so very large, even as close as it is to hitting landfall. So with that, I will conclude my prepared remarks and just open the floor to questions. Yes, sir.
As far as flood damage goes, you know, there's risk for storm surge, but there's also going to be a ton of rain dumping down. How much flooding could we expect on the Gulf Coast?
Well, I think we can expect a significant amount of flooding. It is going to be primarily, it appears, if the track continues up towards the Mobile Bay area in Jackson County, particularly the southeastern part of Jackson County, Pascagoula area, but also all the way up through George and Wayne counties as well. And so as we currently see it, as we have projected it, potentially making landfall to the east of the Alabama-Mississippi state line. That's where the primary concern is right now. But I just want to point out and reiterate that it would not take a lot over the next 8 to 12 hours for this thing to tick back west. It would not surprise me, by the way, if it ticks back west. This thing is jumping around out in the Gulf, and if you look at it on an hourly by hourly basis, it is really bouncing back and forth, and it is not very far from the Mississippi-Alabama state line to the Harrison County-Jackson state line, Harrison County-Jackson County line. And so, you know, I really believe that anywhere from Biloxi east is where this thing is going to hit land. The best projections right now are in the Mobile Bay area, but again, it would not surprise me the way this thing is bouncing back and forth. For it to go further east, it would not surprise me for it to go further west. But I do think that we are looking at the potential of fairly large amounts of water. They have reduced the projections down to approximately 3 feet of storm surge localized on the beaches in Harrison County, greater than 3 feet, primarily in Ocean Springs, Pascagoula, and the Orange Grove areas of Jackson County. And so that is in terms of storm surge. When you look at total amounts of rainfall, we could get 4+ inches of rainfall all the way from Harrison to Clark counties and everything to the southeast, 4 inches or more, which includes Jackson and George and Greene counties, obviously, which could get as much as 6 inches of rain and as much as 10 inches of rain for the southeast portions of Jackson as well as George counties. And in that area, in the very southeasternmost part of Jackson County, as much as 15 inches of rain. The storm is moving very, very slowly, and so that tends to make us very concerned about the amount of rainfall that we may get to the immediate east of wherever it hits landfall. Okay.
Well, can you hear me?
Hey, Dave.
Okay, good. How you doing, Governor?
I'm well.
We're live on WLOX right now. Having declared a state of emergency and with President Trump signing off on that, regardless of what this storm does, how is that advantageous to the coast and to the state of Mississippi moving forward?
Well, obviously it has been very advantageous because it's allowed us to pre-position assets such that we can respond at a moment's notice to anything that occurs. That is what's allowed us to ensure that we've got 3 National Guard composite teams at Camp Shelby. We have 3 National Guard composite teams from the 890th Engineering Group at the CRTC. In addition to that, we have search and rescue teams in the Hancock County area, as well as Swiftwater hybrid teams that are pre-positioned to provide any search and rescue that is needed or necessary. We have encouraged those individuals that are in low-lying areas to please move north. Please go find a family member or friends to stay with so that we don't put our emergency first responders in harm's way. But as you know, Dave, should someone need help, we are going to send help. and the President's approval of our declaration certainly helps us provide the funding to make sure that happens. We appreciate the administration. I will tell you that I have been in regular contact with members of the administration, with cabinet members, with the admiral in charge of the Coast Guard. We've just had a great working relationship with our federal partners. We hope that this storm, for our benefit, continues to tick to the east and it has less of an impact on us. But there's so much uncertainty left. This, by the way, as you know, Dave, you've been watching this for a long time, and the people on WLOX have know more about weather than I'll ever know, having paid much attention to storms. But the fact is, this one is a little bit unusual in that we would typically know 14 to 18 hours away from landfall, a pretty narrow spot at which it's likely to hit. This one's a little bit harder to gauge just because it's been bouncing around and it hasn't formed nearly as large of an eye as what typically occurs, particularly when it's moving at 2 miles an hour. Seeing no further questions at this time, we'll continue to monitor the storm. I want to encourage all of my fellow Mississippians to be prepared to help your friends and your neighbors. Reminder that we are still battling the coronavirus, and so that creates certain challenges, but we are up to those challenges. We will meet those challenges. We have the shelters in place to ensure that everyone that needs shelter can get it. Just know that we are all praying for the best during this storm, but please do not underestimate the possibilities that exist now, because I will tell you that the range of possibilities from this point forward remain very, very large, to a direct hit on Mississippi all the way to it ticking even further to the east and maybe not even having significant effects on us, with the exception of a lot of rainfall and a lot of water. So with that, thank you all for being here today. Have a great day. Stay safe and God bless.